This is another Turbine Guy Network special investigative report.
Hey folks, Turbine Guy coming back at you with a tremendous interview today with a partner from Survival Games TV, a YouTube channel that's getting into its third season now. And, kind of a takeoff of all the Survivor stuff going on. And, I've mentioned before that we all think that, oh, we could do that when we watch it. But, it's a whole different world when you're out somewhere and you don't know, first of all, where you're going and what's going to happen. So today, I've got partner Shawn Chartier with us. How are you doing today, Shawn?
I'm doing super.
Super. So it was quite the event the other day when they got up there. From what I understand, they got up there, they were kind of getting ready to go, trying to get everybody organized and set. And the next thing you know, one of the contestants disappeared.
Yeah, it was about a 7-day event, and 2 hours in, somebody wandered on.
And then next thing you know, you couldn't find this person, and they ended up doing a search and rescue the next day.
Yeah, we had a lot of safety protocols in place. We had compasses for them. We had radios that they were to take. We had a buddy system where you weren't allowed to leave sight of others without having a buddy with you. We laid out a lot of safety protocols, and unfortunately, she just kind of got excited. She was excited to be there, wanted to go exploring, didn't take her compass, didn't take a buddy, didn't take the walkie-talkie, and went out on her own, which is against all of our rules. The minute she left, she basically was disqualified, and the team was all on the same page that you can't do that because we spent months preparing and had a lot of safety protocols, and if you just ignore those, it puts everyone at jeopardy.
Now, this preparation, I understand you got permits, you dealt with the DNR, you dealt with all the authorities to set this up, and it was such a well organized scheme that they were impressed. It was better than, say, the Boy Scouts coming out.
Yeah, I believe the police on the scene made the comment that, the Boy Scouts come out here and they have less rules, less boundaries, less this and that than you did with a group of adults. So, we try to think through it all, but you can't predict every human being. And, the good news is we bring out people that do have some experience. Unfortunately, I think that experience is what led her to believe she would be fine just taking a walk. And anybody that's been in the woods knows you only have to go 300 feet and you can be in trouble if you don't know where you are, if you're disoriented. It was an overcast day, so there was no sun. There was just no way for her to know what direction she was going. Even though we had a west boundary of a river and an east boundary of the road, those two actually came together in the north and came together in the south. So you were inside of a controlled perimeter, but it's 5 miles by 2 miles, and you can't just randomly walk it. You have to have a plan, and you have to have a compass, and you have to be aware of your location.
Sure. And then she leaves, and then the weather starts turning.
Yeah, it was already pretty cloudy and cool, so luckily she had some decent clothing on. We knew that she had enough clothing to be okay through the night, as long as she knew to build a shelter, get curled up. If you get cold, get up, do some jumping jacks, keep your blood flowing, keep your body moving. We expected she had those basic skills, and that's why we spent the first, I would say, 6-7 hours looking for her ourselves. We had a drone during the daytime going around and trying to see if you could spot her. We dressed them all in fluorescent clothing so that they're spottable by air, and that's how they ended up finding her. But, as time wore on and we were riding up and down our recovery road, which is where there's to go east and end up at the road, or to go south and end up back at base camp. So after spending hours waiting for her to follow that safety protocol, we realized she was not returning to the road. She was not returning to the camp. And about, I believe, 2 a.m. is when they finally called the DNR and the local police and let them know that we're going to need some help, because temperature was dropping to about 44 degrees. The rain was continuing. And if she didn't know to get dry, to stay dry and to stay moving, it could have been in trouble. I mean, hypothermia is a real thing. So that's why we called for help. We knew that she was way out of our safety protocols and our boundaries, and we needed some help.
And she's from California, so they aren't necessarily used to the cold. I got a friend of mine who comes up here to Minnesota and asked me why I walk so fast till he got here in February and we parked at the back of a parking lot. Then you learn why, because it's a lot different going to a hot area than to a cold area.
Yeah, I'm not for sure which part of California, but people have to remember California is really big. So you can go northern California and it gets plenty cold, and they have mountains and all of the terrain. So we don't all want to picture Los Angeles when we say California. I've seen a lot of comments of people saying, "Well, Cali people, blah blah blah," but there's a lot of wilderness in California too.
Oh, sure there is. Sure there is. Now, I got to think that this is a learning experience, and it's something that you guys can actually use to your advantage in the future when you're prepping for the next seasons.
Yeah, I think we were gonna. We had air tags for everybody. We were air tagging them in the morning because they were to not leave the site. They were just setting up shelter, and they had a challenge at 5 o'clock that they needed to be a part of. So we had a schedule for them that had them not going anywhere, and we found out that not everybody's going to follow our schedule. So in the future, they'll be air tagged before they're allowed out of the car because apparently it only takes 1 hour out of the car. I keep picturing, anybody that's taking kids to Disney,
Yep.
the odds of losing them are usually in that first 30 minutes because you're just getting there and everybody's going crazy and the kids kind of just get that crazy look in their eye and they run off to the first ride and they don't even remember their parents. And it felt like one of those situations where you couldn't even see it coming. You had all the preparation in the world. But if somebody sneaks off while you're looking, we had 8 contestants. So there's a lot going on when you're just getting set up and getting everything in place and explaining all the rules and what the plan is. And we had extensive safety training. All the tools were there to succeed. And she's been very honest and apologetic that she really goofed up by not taking her equipment, not having a buddy, not having the walkie-talkie. She didn't even have a compass. So there was no way for her to even find the safety parameters we had set up because she kind of wandered off without any of it.
Yeah, no way other than dumb luck, huh?
Yeah.
so, so, it's pretty impressive the video of the state patrol helicopter finding her, and you got to give them kudos how quickly they actually got on the ball and found her.
Yeah, and that was the last resort. So a lot of people don't know, but we had the canines were out there at daybreak. They had a thermal drone out there. There was at one point where they were reporting back that they didn't believe that she was in that chunk of woods because there was no way they didn't come across her while scanning it. But it was so thick, and I assume she was inside of her shelter she had built, and that's why they weren't picking her up with the drone when it was in non-thermal. But I'm a little surprised they didn't pick up the heat signature. But they were finding deer and animals, and it can be using a drone isn't as easy as it sounds. And the same thing with canines. Those dogs are trained to do a lot of things, but they're not hounds. It'd have been different if you had a deer tracking hound out there, I think. But yeah, they were kind of in the same boat of saying he's not in the area. And then the helicopter made one pass and didn't find her and didn't actually see her until the second pass. So thank goodness they stuck with it and they had the tenacity to keep looking, even though they weren't thinking they were finding her.
Now it sounds like she was uninjured, just had a pretty fearful night.
Yeah, she wasn't even that scared. Like she recognized that she had wandered off and she knew what to do. She unfortunately didn't have her fire starter or compass. She wasn't dressed appropriately. She didn't have any kind of cover. I mean, she didn't. You should not go in the woods without a pack full of basic survival gear. But she recognized that, and she knew she wasn't going to die. She knew that she could handle that temperature, and other than being cold and tired, because obviously she didn't get a lot of sleep, she was in good spirits and just super apologetic that it really goofed up the whole show and all that. And we were just happy she was safe. I mean, there was a lot of praying going on.
Sure. Now, just tell the people from your perspective, what's Survival Games TV really about?
Yeah, so it started because I love going out and learning survival skills, and we don't fancy ourselves to be the experts and to know it all yet. Our whole goal is to learn and learn and learn, but we want regular people to get off the couch and go out and explore. This creates a controlled environment, so we thought this creates a controlled environment for people to come out, not only spend a week living off the land and learning how to start a fire, build a basic shelter, get water, from coconuts or whether it be boiling water, filtration, straw. The first time people have slept in hammocks is a lot of times on our show. So we've done remote islands for the first 2 seasons. This is our first time doing a forest setting. But the whole idea is to get people out and teach them there's a lot more than just watching it on YouTube or laying on the couch talking about it. Life is adventures, and this won't set us back. We're going to keep going. This is part of the deal. We've learned some lessons. We had notified the DNR and gotten permits and everything, but we didn't notify the local police. In the future, we'll notify both. I guess we assumed they would talk. but that's a poor assumption. That was on us. We should have let them know also. But we had all the safety protocols in place, but we've got to figure out how do we make sure people follow those, because that was what got us this time.
Now, I understand you may actually I'm sure you'll get some footage out of this, but I'm sure that, or I understand you might actually just redo this season 3.
Yeah, yep. Season 3 will have to be redone. It probably won't be called Season 3. Season 3 is now dubbed the Lost Season. So, unfortunately, fortunately, it depends how you want to look at it. We didn't get a ton of footage from what I'm hearing. I believe we can request the police body cameras and the helicopter footage. So we'll try to put together the story so everybody can see how quickly it happens and how it is. But the cameras weren't rolling very much on our side because our team was 100% focused on getting her home safe, not on making YouTube content. So, I've heard people say this was a stunt or this, that, or the other thing. They were terrible at throwing stunts because we didn't film any of what would get the views. We were focused on finding her and making sure she was safe.
And I would completely agree with you, because my buddy Johnny was up there, and that's how I got involved in this. And that's exactly what he said to me. He said, we can't believe she wandered off, and that kind of screwed everything up. And, none of this was planned, and we all really wanted to have the whole week to us to actually do this. And it just kind of fell apart. So, from what I've heard, you're absolutely right. There's no stunt going on here. There's no games being played. This is just something that happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's going out in the wilderness. I mean, this is a risk you take anytime you want to go out and have an adventure. And so, we signed up for some of this risk, and we're learning. We'll learn more as we go. In previous episodes, we're swimming with sharks and, spearing fish, and that brings the sharks in. And we don't pretend that this is a zero risk channel. This definitely carries normal risk of going outside.
Oh, and that's so true. I can't tell you how many times lately I've read of experienced hikers going on a known path and dying, things like that. So whenever you get out in nature, and I used to bring my kids camping, then canoeing down rivers every year when they were kids, and that was to help them understand when you're out here somewhere, there's things you can do, and you don't just have to panic. And it sounds like that's what really happened is nobody panicked. Everybody, including this lady, realized there was an issue and did the best thing they could to try to resolve the issue.
Yeah, I've heard quotes like 99% of drowns or 90% of drownings are panic.
Yep.
When you're in a tough situation, you have to stay calm, you have to stay level-headed. If you have some training, then you start following your training, which is what she did. She didn't have the tools, but with what she had, she did a great job staying warm enough and staying alive and waiting for somebody to find her. And, she didn't keep moving around and risk injury because now she's cold, tired, and fatigued or whatever. So, everybody did the right thing. And I actually looked it up because I'm in force. I wasn't on site. So I'm communicating back and forth and trying to help them come up with solutions. So one of the things I looked up is how often do people get lost in search and rescues required. And I could not believe that 5,000 people a year are lost in just the Yosemite National Park that require search and rescue.
Wow.
And I believe 80% of those were lost on day packing trips, so did not have the gear to spend the night. So this isn't like, I'm actually surprised it's making the news that it is because it's so normal for somebody to get lost. I think because it was a YouTube survival challenge, they want us to be the bad guys and want to prove we did something wrong. Want everybody mad that we used the resources of a helicopter to find her. But guess what? This happens every day, multiple times a day throughout the U.S., and we had the most controlled environment, I would say, of any of the examples that I could find. So.
Yeah, well, I'm really amazed by that statistic of how many people really get lost out there. And, I guess I shouldn't be because so many people in this country are city dwellers. They think we're going to go out and have a day trip and it's going to be a great time. And when you've never experienced stuff like that, you can really run into trouble.
And that's the dream of Survival Games TV. We want to show that regular people can go out and have a good time and learn how to live off of the land. And, there's a lot of things you can eat that can get you in trouble. There's a lot of things you can drink that can get you in trouble. You can die from eating 5 of the certain berries. You can die of eating one of these special apples in the Bahamas. So, we're very clear with them. Do not eat anything without permission. Do not drink anything without permission. We walk them through, but that comes down to they got to listen to the rules.
Well, and that's the crazy part. You literally have this framework set up for them. Eat this, don't eat this. Drink that, don't drink that. Where you're trying to make it as safe as possible, and still look what happened.
Yep, and she said she went for water, but they were given a canteen and told to fill it up before we leave the house, so they would have water when we first got there until we can start the first challenge where they can start winning supplies, and then the next day they would have been taken to the river and taught how to gather water. So our goal is to teach survival skills as we go. But if you take off before we can even teach you to go get something you were supposed to bring with, and then don't bring any of the safety equipment you've been given, it really runs us out of ideas. And like I said, she's been super apologetic. This was a total she got excited. She took off running in the Disneyland too fast, and we lost her amongst the crowd.
Yeah, well, crazy story, crazy outcome. Johnny would still be in the woods right now if this never happened, but I think he's looking forward to getting back in the woods. But do me a favor, when you bring Johnny somewhere, just like last time, don't tell him where he's going till the last minute so he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, we try to keep it fun. The games part of survival games is this isn't a survival expert channel. This is regular people. We go all the way to park rangers or, emergency medical professionals to I've been camping twice. And we're creating a safe environment for any of them to participate. But you got to listen to the rules. You got to follow the rules.
And this isn't like Survivor Man, where they go drop them off in the middle of the desert and say, we'll see you in a while. It sounds like you guys really are prepared, set up, and doing your best to create a different type of survival show, I guess.
Yeah, we want to bring a lot of realism to it and really have young people be able to watch it and learn these survival skills. And we want to teach people how to clean a conch and how to clean a lobster and how to clean a squirrel and teach them how to catch these animals and how to get water. Water's number one priority, and a lot of people wouldn't have a clue how to turn water into safeable drinking water. So that's the stuff we want to teach people, but got to follow the rules. Even if we teach people and they don't do it the exact way you show them, they're going to be in trouble also. So it's just very important. You got to stick to the plan.
Well, anything else you want to add?
I think that's it. We'll rebuild. We aren't giving up. This is a big setback, and it was really tough for the team that was there. But like you said, even the contestants understood and believe in what we did was the right thing to do, and then call the season and take a step back and try again.
All right. Well, Turbine Guy here signing off with Shawn Chartier, and thank you for coming.
Oh, one last thing. Thank you so much to the rescue officials. Definitely came through for us.
And they did a great job. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see
All
you.
right. See you next time. Come on.